possible. So we are going to be joined with our first guest, Don Cochrane from Vertex. Hey Don, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
Well. You're joining us from London?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 7:05 in the evening here.
Let's show the watch that you just checked your time with. Check the time with.
It's the Vertex Bronze 75.
We're twins.
I know you've got over there.
Yeah. And we were just talking before the show. It's winter there. That would explain the cozy turtleneck.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably about 10 degrees outside.
And oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought you were in a museum, but that's actually your office. You have some really cool prints back there.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be inspired by the things around you.
Yep, and the last time we saw each other was at Virtual Microlux in Chicago.
Yeah.
Not virtual, just Microlux Chicago last year.
Yeah. Seems like a long time ago now. The world's gone through a lot since then.
It has, so it's really good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
So I want to talk about how you resurrected the brand from your great-grandfather, Claude Lyons. You want to explain how you resurrected the Vertex brand?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was so my great-great-grandfather, Claude Lyons, set up Vertex in 1916, and it ran all the way up until 1972, when it closed down due to the court crisis and the family not wanting to continue the business. Then about 6.5 years ago, my grandmother died, and she was 99 and a half, an amazing woman and a real sort of inspiration for me. And I was sitting at work feeling very sad about that, and I suddenly like an epiphany, really. But wouldn't it be great if I could bring her father's watch company back? Luckily, she left me a little bit of money, so I used that money to buy back the trademarks and the IP. And then during that whole process, I discovered many stories, wonderful Vertex stories, really. But the one that we're most well known for now is being one of the suppliers for the British during the Second World War. Those 12 suppliers are now called the Dirty Dozen.
Right.
Fraternity. And Vertex was lucky enough to be one of the Dirty Dozen. So the watch we made for them went on to serve, for another 30 years, and became the basis of our reimagination.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I know the story that you had it's a really great story. I love that story. I love everything about Vertex. And sometimes stories are used as marketing ploys. But I've known you personally now for a few years, so I actually know the reasons you started up. Those was actually true and genuine stories, and
absolutely,
really touching.
Yeah. I never really meant to do. It was never designed to be commercial. It was never designed for anything other than just to be a lasting memory for my grandmother and her father and her husband, my grandfather, who ran the company up until 1972. It seemed like a nice thing to be able to do, and it's been incredibly fulfilling as a project. And
then who knew? Fast forward to 2020, that Vertex would just blow up the way it did with something that you started with a genuine passion from your heart, and now Vertex is just so beloved. There isn't a single person that I know that has anything bad to say about Vertex or you.
No, thank you. Well, I mean, hopefully we don't do anything wrong to upset anyone. I feel incredibly lucky how well Vertex has been received by not just the people that have bought Vertexes, but also the watch press and the sort of historical watch journalists. It very quickly re-established itself, so it could be in a room with much more well-renowned brands, which makes me very happy.
Yes. So you started with the M100, and then in 2017, you had this marvelous relaunch at the home of the Duke of Wellington in London. Yeah. That's quite a feat. Tell us how that happened, how you were welcome in that home.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm a big believer in universal causality, and that some things just happen because they're meant to happen. And I knew the Duke through a friend of mine, and I was planning the launch, and I was trying to think what to do. And as I was walking down one of the streets in Mayfair, he came out of one of the private members clubs, and I was like, "Hey Arthur, how are you doing? I actually really wanted to talk to you about this because I'm planning this launch, and you get invited to lots of cool things. What would be a cool thing for us to do for Vertex?" And he said, "Why don't you have it at my house? Because that would be a really cool thing to do." Before that, the only other party they'd had it there was the 50th anniversary for Vanity Fair. So it was quite a cool thing to be able to do. And it's a very famous building. It's called Apsley House, and it's right in the corner of Hyde Park in London. It's a massive, massive building. So it was a great opportunity to tell that story. And obviously, the Duke of Wellington has incredible military history too. So we got to tell the two stories next to each other.
Yeah, I saw the images of that event. You had a lot of people there, a lot of, it looks like important people. So that must have been really impressive. So you are well connected, we could say. So I kind of feel more powerful now because I'm a friend of you who was a friend of everybody else. So
yeah, you're also a Vertex owner, and once you're a Vertex owner, obviously you become exceptionally powerful and good looking and cute.
Yep, and the M100, you had a very unique way of approaching the release of that. It wasn't something that anybody could just order or buy. You actually had a referral program.
Yeah.
But that part of it wasn't met right away with love, right? People are like, oh, I don't want to have to know somebody to own this watch. But then what you sold out of that first initial run really quickly. So did that surprise you? How nervous were you when you approached the release with a referral program?
Going back to the beginning, because I hadn't designed Vertex to be commercial, I wasn't particularly worried about selling. It was never designed to how quickly can we sell out. I know most watch companies, it's all about, selling out instantly the second you announce something, and that's sexy. For me, it's much more important that there is a value in the attainment of something, and the value doesn't necessarily have to be defined by the financial price of a thing. That the value is the journey you go through to get something. Maybe you travel to another city to see something before you buy it because that's part of the ritual. And for us, it was to try and make it slightly more interesting, the attainment side of things. So there is a referral side of it, or it's available to serving military or military veterans, and that in itself has become, it gives them ownership of something that they should have ownership of because it was always a military thing, and so that's been really wonderful as well.
Yeah, I know you're really humble and really modest in your success, but when I say you sold out, we're not talking about 5 or 10 pieces. We're talking 600 of the M100. That is no small feat. So that was a major accomplishment. So congratulations on that. And then you followed that up with the MP45 chronograph with the mono pusher.
Yes.
So that one, tell us about how you transitioned from the M100 to wanting to do the MP45.
Well, I wanted to, I think a mono pusher has always been my favorite watch. And
well, let me interrupt you for a moment. I'm sorry. So I know and I know what a mono pusher is, but for some people that aren't familiar with what a mono pusher is, which I love, explain what a mono pusher is.
Well, it's a single button chronograph. So on most chronographs now, you have two buttons, one that's start and stop and another one that's reset. A mono pusher, all those functions are on one button. So start, stop, reset is all on one button. The idea of this watch, originally, it was designed at the end of the war as a ordnance disposal watch. So there's lots of unexploded munitions everywhere, and the technician would get to the bomb with a 5-minute, 6-minute fuse, start his little mono pusher, and start working on it. And I love that honesty of it, and I love the purity of it. And we often talk about purity of purpose of military equipment because it's designed specifically to do something as simply as possible, but as reliably as possible. And I think that gives it huge relevance now because it's fit for purpose. And it wasn't designed to be cool or fashionable or clever. It was designed to do the job, and quite a serious job at the time. So it was wonderful that we were involved in the development of that watch with Lamagna at the time in 1945. The war finished, obviously, in 1945, and because Vertex was in Britain, it was rationed to how many movements they were allowed to bring into the country, and so we stopped making military watches. We didn't make the mono pusher in the end. Yeah. So it was my chance to make it, and it's been great. I made it for me, and I love it. So
so do I. I think we're looking at a nice commercial that you produced. Did you produce and direct it? But this is just really well done. It looks like a short story, like a real film. How did that video come about?
Well, I mean, again, it's about telling our story, really. I mean, the lovely thing Vertex gets to do is it was there. We did put watches on the wrists of soldiers who fought their ways up the beaches in Normandy and then went on to liberate Europe and Asia. And that's a really lovely thing to be able to do. So it's really taking ownership of that and making people feel more connected to those stories.
Yeah, no, I'm watching this commercial right now. It's being seen. It makes me feel like I'm watching a Tom Hanks movie or something that Spielberg would direct. It just has that film noir, that spy feel. We're really
very
done.
lucky. Again, very lucky. You know, we that was shot in the Churchill War Rooms, which is quite a historically important part of Whitehall, where Churchill in the 40s moved the cabinet to when London was being blitzed really badly. And we approached them and said, would this be possible? And because Vertex was there at the time, they said it would be. So that was really lovely. So again, it's something that you couldn't do necessarily if you started your own watch brand now, but because Vertex has that historical significance again, it gives us certain access, and so we got to do that. And it was fun. I got to sit at Churchill's desk and show you how to put your strap on your watch, which was fun.
Yeah, you've done. I think you would make Claude Lyons, your great grandfather, really proud with the direction and what you've done with the Vertex brand. I'm sure you've got to think about that sometimes, right? Maybe before you lay your head to the pillow at night, just kind of honoring him and saying, "Wow, this has really been more than I thought it would be."
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of lovely moments. I mean, I think last year at some point I was taking some watches to show a journalist in East London. I was walking down one of the old streets in the city with a kind of briefcase full of watches, and I imagine it's exactly what my grandfather did and my great grandfather did. And I had this kind of little momentary kind of, yeah, that's really cool that we both walked down the street with this briefcase of watches with the same. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. So now fast forward to now, and you've come up with the it's the Bronze 75, which is a similar version to the M100, except it's in bronze.
Yeah. So it's realistically, in many ways, it's identical to the M100. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The difference being that it's a bronze case, bronze hand, slightly patinated lumina, so the color of the lume is slightly different. And the back of the watch itself is an exact replica of the watch from the Second World War, which is kind of cool too. So this year, if you didn't know it already, it's the 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. VE Day was in May the 8th, and VJ Day was August the 12th. And I think the actual technical end of the Second World War was September the 2nd. So there was a lot of celebration this year. Well, actually, it was very muted because of COVID. But it was still significant enough for us to want to tell the story again. And I think bronze is a really nice medium for doing that. I'm overjoyed by the way it's turned out, and the reception it's had has been fantastic. And it's lovely to work with a medium that will have its own story. You know, rather than just the hands telling the time, the case itself shows its age and reacts to the world around it. Although the alloy we've used won't degrade as much as some, because it's quite a high mix, but it will age. So
this has the same hand, which is they're made of loom sticks. Is that how would you explain the outrageous loom on these watches?
Yeah, well, it's molded superluminova. So if you look at a M100, every number is made out of a loom block, and that loom block is 0.5 of a mil high. So they react very strongly to light, and we've become kind of famous for that luminosity, which is fun. And I think there's something quite, it's the child in us, things that glow in the dark are kind of cool, and this really glows in the dark, so it's fun.
Yeah, we just had a question from one of the viewers, and he's asking, what do the arrows mean on the watches?
So that's called the broad arrow, or the phenom, and originally it was to denote crown property. So it became relevant in about 1674. You'll see it in England anyway, or Britain. You'll see it on mile markers on the road that show the distance between things. You'll see it on prison uniforms back in the day, and then more importantly, you'll find it on all military equipment up until 1967, when they stopped using it. Importantly, during the Second World War, I just reached behind me and pick up one of the original Dirty Dozen watches. It was on all the original Dirty Dozen watches. So
I had that. You lent that to me in my possession. I remember that.
So that's it there. So you can't legally use it now without permission from the government. So before we made the watch, we approached the government and got permission to use it, which is lovely because I think it means a lot. There's a great deal of relevance to having it on the watch. So we're very lucky. We're allowed to have it on the M100 and the MP45 because they are they denote the same historical. They're based on a historical watch. But we probably won't be using it too much as we move forward, unless we're making watch specifically for the military.
Sure. No, there is so much authenticity in this watch. This is also limited edition to 150.
150, yeah.
And the movement on here. This is a manual wand movement.
Yeah, manual wind ETA 7001 movements. I really love manual winds.
Yeah.
Dirty Dozen watch is we call the Cal 59 is a manual wind too, and there's something just very healthy about winding a watch.
I agree. Yeah,
and you know, it's really interesting when I originally started the M100 program with our manufacturing partner in Switzerland. We were the only manual watch they were making that year, and since then, something like 40% of their watches they're making now are manual. So it's amazing how much manual has increased just in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I still don't think there are enough made. Just for anyone who doesn't have a manual wind watch, I highly recommend adding that to your collection because it's just an entirely different feeling. Yeah. What is the retail price on the bronze?
So we don't have a dollar price because we ship from the UK, but the price
Pounds.
Without tax, I think, is £2,250.
Yeah, I can attest. You know, I have the M100, the first one, and the MP45. I wear those almost daily. Those are just gorgeous watches. The history behind it, you being my friend, all of those things contribute to making that watch have this great value to me. And I think that is one of the reasons that Vertex is so beloved. It has that genuine and authentic history behind it by someone that was part of the family.
Yeah, no, we're really lucky, and the fact that we sell our watches directly means that we know every single person who owns a Vertex, and they're part of the story now. So that's really important too. And it's a really diverse community from fairly, people who have done incredible things to people who just have, a real love for that period in time, and that's great.
So I just want to put that into some perspective about Vertex being among the Dirty Dozen watches. I mean, Vertex was in there along with brands like Omega and Sima and Longines among that Dirty Dozen. So that is
IWC, Jaeger LeCoultre. There's some fairly big brands.
An incredible list of brands that Vertex was a part of. I know that you showed me a future Vertex model earlier, but are you ready to announce that yet, or is that still under the wraps?
We're developing a dive watch at the moment, and I haven't made any secrets about that, so that's fine. I don't have it to show you, unfortunately, because we're just going through our third stage of prototypes, because you really need to get this stuff right.
Yeah.
And each time you change something, it takes about 6 months. So that'll be fun.
I saw it. I saw your rendering. It's another. You're going to have another hit on your hands. Vertex can do no wrong.
Well, let's see. And before that, you can be the first to see the steel straps that we've developed for the M100 and the.
I did not see that. You were keeping that.
Well, these only arrived on Friday, so these will be available hopefully by the end of the year. Obviously extendable.
Nice.
And it does somewhat change the feel of the watch. That's a M100, MP45, and you can see it changed the watch considerably. It's a very high quality 361 steel strap.
When are those available? When are the steel bracelets?
Hopefully by the end of the year, so just before Christmas, I hope.
Just in time for the holidays.
Yeah.
Great time.
Like all our watches, will have quick release plugs, so you don't need any special equipment to change it.
Right. This is a presentation that Vertex comes in. It's a very cool. It's like a floating case. It has this like a spy kind kind of a spy feel to it, and it comes with 2 straps. Right here's another kind of a British NATO strap.
Zulu Alpha strap.
Yep, and another one.
Yeah, and then underneath it is an AX strap, which is a replica of the strap it would have come with in the Second World War.
Taking this apart, and underneath there, as all good spies have, is a hollowed out section right there. There are so much details with Vertex. Even this, like my other Vertex cases are like a steel plating. This is also, is this a bronze or bronze color?
Yeah, it's made of bronze.
So
that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, lots of details with Vertex, and this is I forgot what we want to call it. As a Pelly case. This is a real case that.
Pelly case. And you know it suits the brand. It's incredibly robust. I can send watches anywhere in the world, and I know they'll arrive in good condition. Apparently, you can drive over that box with a tank, and we haven't had the chance to do that yet, but we will at some point.
Okay, we just had another question come in, and I'm not sure if we covered this or not, but the question is, what is the Vertex name's origin?
Okay, well, I'm afraid I don't know. So I know what it means. So Vertex is the coming together of 2 vertices. So it's generally the pinnacle of a triangle is the vertex of the triangle. So it makes sense for that reason, but I've never been able to ask my great-grandfather, sadly. And unfortunately, I didn't ask my grandfather because I never thought to ask him. So I don't know how it came about. But bizarrely, Rolex and Vertex started 2 years apart, on the same street, 2 doors away from each other. So
I don't think I knew that.
they're fairly close. As I'm sure you know, Rolex was a British company before it came in.
That I did.
So yeah.
Yeah. So London has been producing some fantastic brands other than you. Yet of all the brands, and there are others that I really like so much. It seems like Vertex has just leapfrogged over so many of those brands. That would have to be because of not just the marketing behind it or the genuine history behind it. It's, like you said, getting to know you personally, and then, of course, the quality of the watches. If the quality of the watches weren't good, and you have this rich history, and Don could be the nicest guy in the world, but if the quality of the watches aren't there, it's not going to go anywhere. So when you build your watches, whether it's the Bronze 75 or the M100 or the MP45 or the divers that's coming up, how long of a process is that from the idea that you have in your head to where you actually see your prototype?
I mean, realistically, it's probably about 2 years to delivery. So prototype's probably a year. Depends how much time you spend in prototype, playing with things.
And are you just locked in on that? Do you just infatuate about that 24/7 where you're thinking, okay, I have this idea in my head, it goes to pen to paper, then it goes to computer, and then it goes to manufacturing?
Yeah. I try not to think about it too much because it's scary. And then occasionally I'll get a delivery which comes in a box like this, which will be a prototype watch. and sometimes I don't open the box for 2 days because I'm scared I won't like it. So it's quite a big deal when they arrive. And you know, generally, I mean, when the bronze arrived, I was so thrilled because we never prototyped the bronze. We went straight from, I want to do a bronze M100. We did some drawings and some color things and chose the alloy. But apart from that, I had never seen it. I'd never seen a prototype, and I was ready. Again, I paid for them up front, so I paid for 150 watches because that's the way they work with me, and they're not cheap. They're a lot more expensive than you'd imagine. And so there is a bit of fear that I may have got it wrong and it may not work. But with the bronze, it's been amazing, and everyone that's got one is very happy with it.
Yeah, I had high expectations when I unboxed this based on the M100 and the MP45, and then I said, yep. This did not disappoint. There was so much. It's just a real joy. It's super comfortable to wear, and the leather strap as well. How do you? And is this leather strap is lined? I think it might be lined with rubber.
But it's designed to patinate like the watch, so it should age really nicely too. I mean, this one I'm wearing. I've been wearing it for 3 months now, and it's still pretty much okay. But I like them when you can see the age in them, and you can feel, it's kind of fun.
How much obsession do you put into choosing the leather for your straps? Is that where is that on the hierarchy?
I don't want to sound weird. No, I mean it's fun, and I just have fun with it. You just get different samples and look at the samples and feel the samples and try and imagine how it will complement the dial color or the hands and that sort of thing.
You have a really rich life.
Uh,
A very cherished life. There is so much more to Don than just the Vertex brand. You like motorcycles too, right? Bikes.
Yeah, motorcycles. I was at Goodwood today with we were sponsoring a couple of racing cars at Goodwood Speed Week. So Goodwood, if you don't know, is this amazing country estate in West Sussex in England.
Yeah.
Owned by the Duke of Richmond, and they've had a horrible year because they haven't been able to do any events, but they've just put one on this weekend, which was a closed event, so no public, but some amazing racing cars.
Yeah, I follow you on Instagram, and you are quite the rock star in London. So thank you for joining us. This is Don Cochrane from Vertex, and where can they learn more about Vertex watches?
So www.vertex-watches.com. And any questions, info@vertexwatches.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Yes, he will. Don, thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Have a good day.
Bye, my friend.
So up next, we have Ite Noi from Ite Noi at 11:40. We'll see you in just a few minutes.